Hello everyone, my name is Asleen and I'm gonna present on a topic Bluekeep to remotely access and exploit Windows machine along with my friend Toy. So we will cover introduction to Bluekeep, its diagram, how it's work, scanning network and identifying the vulnerable operating systems. We will also discuss how to access vulnerable systems and will cover port forwarding along with analyzing the packets captured using pfSense and Wireshark. So introduction to Bluekeep. What is Bluekeep? Bluekeep or CVE 2019-0708 is a remote desktop service remote code execution vulnerability which is a critical and vulnerable RDP vulnerable. It was first reported in May 2019 and is dangerous for unpatched Windows systems, which allows remote attackers to completely take over the target. It is security vulnerability that allows for possibility of the remote code execution. It can affect Windows 2003, XP, Windows Vista, Windows 7, Windows Server 2008 and Server 2008 R2. Where newer versions are not affected because they already have the patch. So what makes the Bluekeep vulnerability so critical? First, it affects the RDP services used by millions of machines worldwide, especially critical in healthcare and industrial controls. Secondly, because it allows remote code execution, which makes it critical. And the last one, it can be weaponized to be vulnerable. The RDP service allows multiple users to interact Windows session remotely. So by default, the protocol uses TCP port on 3389. So how to mitigate or what can be done about it? First, patch as soon as possible with the latest Microsoft update. If you cannot patch, then disable RDP on non-sensitive systems and from outside the network and close all the associated ports if not being used. Finally, monitor the incoming RDP connection for any intents to write custom channels. So, here is the overlook of our project. Here the attacker where we are using the Kali machine from where we will send RDP connection to Windows and from where we do port forwarding from Windows to Ubuntu in order to get the access of the machine. So the attacker should be on the same network as of the Windows and Ubuntu machine. As we can see in the diagram, the both Windows and Ubuntu's are on the network 10.0.1.0. Here the pfSense monitors the traffic going in and out and can see the communication between the Kali when Kali connects to Windows, which then connects further to the Ubuntu. The attacker will generate a payload from Kali and it will send that payload to the Ubuntu through Windows, from where we can get access to the machine. First, to start the project, first we will scan the network where the attacker must be on the same network as the target machine. Using ifconfig command, we can identify the attacker's network, that is, the attacker is on the address of 10.0.1.128, which means the attacker is on the network of 10.0.1.0. So using nmap command, which is a searching tool, we can scan the network and identify the available hosts on this network. So by using nmap and the 10.0.1.0/24, we can check and we can see the number of machines in that area in the network. So we are interested in the 10.0.1.3 and the 10.0.1.129, which is our Ubuntu and Windows machine. So furthermore, we can even scan each host individually to identify their operating systems and how vulnerable they are. So using nmap command, again we can scan the networks, the systems, the machines that is nmap, the IP address of our system, which is 10.0.1.129, which is our Windows, and hyphen o. So we can see and check the number of ports and their state, either they are open or closed, and the services associated with it. Similarly, we do with our Ubuntu system as well. So we can see that there are two vulnerable machines from the network scan which we are interested in, and here we can see the open ports and the services running. Now, Toy will show you how to access the vulnerable operating system and do port forwarding, and will show you how to analyze the packet captured using pfSense and Wireshark. Thank you.
Hi everyone. So I'm going to be talking about the attack itself, the Bluekeep attack that we are working on. My name is Akintoye, and I'll take it up from where my colleagues stopped. So first of all, we will talk about gaining access to the vulnerable system and then doing port forwarding from that system. We're going to be using Metasploit. Metasploit is a tool for developing exploit code against a remote target, and we can actually get to Metasploit from our Kali machine by typing in MSF console. It takes us to the platform. Then, as you can see, we launched the Bluekeep attack here. Then we showed the options to see what are the necessary things that we need to set for us to carry out the attack. Right here we can set the client IP, which is the most important thing. So looking at this image here, we already put in the IP of the Windows box. And by the way, Bluekeep is only workable for Windows machines, so that's why we are using this IP 10.0.1.129. So we set the client IP, then we launched the attack. So by doing that, we can actually get into the Windows machine. So the next slide is going to show us that we need to actually create a payload. After we get access to the Windows machine, we create a payload from our Kali box, which is this MSF Venom payload, which I titled attack. It's an executable file. So once we launch the payload, we go to the um, to the compromised machine. Then we type in the address, which is the 10.0.1.128, and the port, which is 8000. It's already here. This is where we put the port. So once we open that folder, we'll see the attack.exe. That's the executable payload that we sent. So once the Windows machine opens that, we gain a session. We get into a session here. We can actually get the session from using the multi-handler. So we put multi-handler and reverse TCP. We put in the L host, that's the local host of our Kali machine. Then the R host is the Windows IP, then the port. Then by so doing, we realize that we opened a session on the Windows machine. Now, once we do that, once we have a session on the Windows machine, then we're already in the network. We've seen a vulnerable machine. Then we can actually explore other machines that are there. So after that, we can actually create like a port forwarding to get into other systems. Now, this is easy for us because we already have the IP address of the systems we want to attack. So after doing that, after getting the session here, we did a port forward from our Kali machine to 10.0.1.3, which is the Ubuntu machine. So once we create a port forwarding, we'll get a session from that Ubuntu machine as well. Then we monitored it by using the netstart, and we can see that there is a session going on between our attacking machine 10.0.1.128 and the Ubuntu machine 10.0.1.3. So once we create a port forward, that means we have a session between the Windows machine and the Ubuntu machine that is active. We could do this because when we did our initial network scan, we saw that those ports were opened. So the TCP ports were opened. The HTTP ports were opened as well, so we could actually um, launch an attack through that as well. So this is the final stage. We have to do the analysis of the packet captured. In order to do that, there were two options for us. We could capture the packets from our pfSense, because remember pfSense is in the 10.0.1 network. If you go to your diagnostic, you can actually do packet capture, which is the picture on this side. We went there, we did the packet capture for our LAN, which is 10.0.1.2, and from here we can see that there were communications um, between all our machines: 10.0.1.2, 10.0.1.3, 10.0.1.128, which is the attacking machine. So we can actually capture all our traffic from pfSense. Then if we want to, we can download this capture. And again, another interesting thing, one of the things we learned in class was to capture through Wireshark. Wireshark is on our Kali machine, so we captured the traffic through Wireshark as well. And it's also evident here that there were communications between our attacking machine and the Windows machine, our attacking machine, and the Ubuntu machine as well. So um, from there, we can look at the next slide, which shows another interesting thing, the address resolution protocol. Um, there were some interesting things about it. See here, it says who has 10.0.1.1. You need to tell 10.0.1.129. So there were a lot of communication going on between our attacking machine and the 10.0 network. Also on this one, we can see all the TCP handshake. There were, of course, definitely there was a successful TCP handshake between our attacking machine and the Windows machine, as well as the Ubuntu machine. So um, this is actually one of the ways by which we can capture our packets, and we can analyze them and see what's going on between the machines. So finally, if you look at the conclusion, what are we trying to talk about here? We basically just show that in a network environment, any weak point, the weakest link, will be the vulnerable point of entry for an attacker. If an attacker wants to get into a particular network, they will look for any vulnerable machine. From there, they can actually explore more and do whatever damage they want to do on that network. So like I showed earlier, we used Wireshark to capture the packets, and we could see that there were successful handshakes. If you see back here again, you can see the successful handshake. So we had successful exploits to both the Windows machine and to the Ubuntu machine. Then it is evident as well that we were able to RDP to the Windows machine, which was our point of entry. Then it was from there that we did a pivoting to the Ubuntu machine. So definitely, if there are other open machines on that network, we can actually do port forwarding to them through that Windows machine. So the Windows machine was actually our entry point. But then, answering the question of how we could stop the attack, if you look at the pfSense, because from our pfSense, I actually checked it, and what I did was I did not enable any firewall rule. So in order for us to stop this attack, we need to enable some firewall rules that will block out um, the traffic that is coming to the RDP. And like my colleague must have said earlier, in order for us to stop this attack, because we already know that Windows 7 is vulnerable to Bluekeep attack, we need to disable our RDP. So if we don't disable the RDP, then it will definitely be vulnerable to attacks like this. And again, from our network scan on maybe the second or third slide, we could see that all these ports were opened. Port 80 was opened for the TCP. So we could actually block all the open ports as well, in order for an attacker not to be able to uh, communicate with the system. So